Hey, hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast, where you'll learn how to host a high converting virtual summit that leads to your biggest signature offer launch yet. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and today in episode 188, I am so excited to bring in a special guest to talk about using resilient time management to launch your virtual summit, specifically when you're juggling other priorities, like a busy business, maybe even another separate business, a full-time job, maybe for you it's a family. But to give you some background information on our guest, she is the first performance coach incorporating heart work, mindfulness, and resilience so professional women can stop giving away their power and start setting resilient boundaries. Women leverage Stacy as a powerful catalyst to gain clarity from their life lessons, lean on their hard-won wisdom, and have power to speak up for themselves. And I think we can all use a little more of that. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk with Stacy Brookman. Welcome, Stacy.
Hey, Krista, I am so excited to be here. This is just thrilling, and I love summits, and I love talking about time management. It's helped me so much. So beautiful.
Yes, and time management is something that my hosts just need so much help with, or people who want to host a summit but are literally like, I don't know how I would possibly make time in my schedule. Like they
Right.
need this information. So I'm so excited to talk with you about it. Before we dive into that, can you just tell us a little bit about you and your business?
Yeah. Well, and even before I answer that, I want to let everybody know that what we're talking about and the steps that I'm going to teach you about resilient time management are all at realliferesilience.com/time. So I've taken all the notes so you can just listen and then go get those notes at realliferesilience.com/time. And because I know how like people are going to be trying to write as fast as they possibly can. But
Yes.
yeah, so my business is Real Life Resilience, and I love coaching people around having boundaries for themselves and not only just boundaries, but resilient boundaries, because I teach that boundaries are for us. It's not for other people and prescribing what other people should do or not do around us. It's really for us. And that includes managing our time and having boundaries because as I worked in corporate for 29 years. And for the last 5 of those years, I actually had a side business. And at one point I realized, you know what? It's hard to do both. And so I started this is something like corporate people need to open their ears, professional people. I started taking a lunch. I started taking my lunch break, and I would actually go into one of our quiet rooms because at our corporate offices we had quiet rooms, and I even had recorded podcasts in there. I wrote blog posts, but I took the time I needed. And then when I started leaving work on time. Now I gave 110% in the time that I had with my business with the corporate offices. I completed and I gave it my all, but in the time that it was allotted to me for that. And then I took my time to do things for my business, and it worked really well, but not nearly as well as till I found what I'm about to teach you today. So I love, love, love talking about time management because it really can be a superpower.
I really like what you mentioned about boundaries being for us. And
Yes.
like not all focus on other people. That was like a big, like right there. My mindset is already shifting around this. So this is going to be so much fun.
Yes.
But you hosted a virtual summit of your own and got a look firsthand at how much time management can be required to pull it off. So can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about how that process went for you and the different things you were balancing while putting your summit together?
Yeah, actually, I've done 2 of them. The both of them, I worked for a business. I had my own business, and then this summit was helping my own business grow, right? Or this summits, and so yeah, it was um, a little overwhelming when you look at what you need to do. But one of the beautiful things the reason I got Summit in a Box was because it's like putting everything in such great organized order that was so beautiful. It helped me. And then with the time management practice that I came to know as well, that helped me put all of my time in boxes. And so yes, so I had a full-time job. I had 2 teenage girls. I think I got married in the middle of that as well and moved. So a
Oh my,
lot of chaos going on. Well, the first one I didn't move, but the second one I did. And so, I first of all started planning well in advance, right? And then I recognized that I can do what I can do, and that the thing that I could do for myself, the best possible thing was to manage my time well. And time management seems so boring. It's like, oh, I've tried that. Or, they say put your time in little boxes, yada, yada, yada. We've all heard that before. But until you actually make it your own process, until you actually implement it well, it's not going to work as well for you as it possibly can. So, what I encourage people to do is learn the process, practice, because when I started doing this practice, this resilient time management practice, I'm like, I'm not a time management person. No, that doesn't work for me. Like I just got to get stuff done, right? But you really don't have to work until midnight to make this happen. You really, really don't. You can have a full-time job. You can have a family. You can eat healthy, exercise, right? Sometimes you think something's got to sacrifice. But when you put things in priority and put things in order and you do this time management practice, you will actually get far more things done than you can even imagine. And so it's all about that, being resilient and doing things really intentionally that will serve you well. We spend a lot of times, spinning around or like, okay, what am I going to do? Or this is too much. And you're wasting time doing that rather than really being precise with your time and intentional with your time. Like, specifically, like when I was at corporate, taking my lunch hour. I mean, that was almost sacrilege. Why in the world are you taking lunch? Well, I'm not taking off early, right? So you deserve that and you need to do that. And so I actually did things during my lunchtime, went to a different spot and did it. So yeah, it was amazing.
oh my gosh. So in there, you mentioned resilient time management a couple of times, and I want to dive into
Yeah.
that a little bit. What does resilient time management mean to you?
Yeah. So resilient time management doesn't mean just blocking your time. It means being very intentional and then making this work for you. So the first time you try to do these time management things, you're going to have that brain resistance. So, and our brains always resist new things that we do. So if someone's very new to doing a summit, they're like, oh, there's like, once they get in, it's like, oh, too much to do. I can't get it all done, or how is this possible, or whatever. But resilient time management means I'm going to tell my brain. So your primitive brain says, have you ever done this before? No. Okay, you don't have time for that. This is not going to work. There's no way you're going to get this all done. Our brains really try to tell us all kinds of things to quit. But resilient time management means, you know what, brain? I am going to be incredibly deliberate. I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to make this work for me because my future self will thank me for this. I want to do this. This is going to be amazing for my business. It's going to grow my business. And for me, it grew my connections with people in the industry so much. It was incredibly valuable in addition to the actual, monetization and the new clients, but it's really connections that is amazing for me. So it's beneficial. And so just reminding your brain, I'm doing this. Let's get on board together. So
Oh, I love that. You are so right. I like as you were talking, I was thinking of little things even within the last week where I have gone to do it and be like, oh, I don't know how to do it. This is going to take me too much time. I don't have that time. Moving on.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
definitely applies to summits as well. Oh my goodness.
Let me give you a little thing too, because you said I don't know how to do this. So this is another concept that I teach in my programs is about having emotional adulthood. If you're ever saying, I don't know how, that is something that we do when we're children. How do we do this? And you're asking your parent says, here's how you do it. Well, as we grow up and as we get into our own businesses and we're trying to do new things, we're always looking on the outside of us for somebody else to solve our problems, right? And so what we really need to do is look inside. So as an example, I want to go live on LinkedIn frequently in August, September. And I'm doing a big push on, helping myself go live, and I want to bring on guests. So I just went down the rabbit hole of, I don't know how to do this. These instructions aren't written well. That doesn't make sense. And so this is yesterday and the day before. And so I thought to myself, okay, it's something I haven't done before. Maybe the instructions aren't that great, but I am going to find the right way to do this. I'm going to find a way to do this. And I was going down this complicated with extra, software and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, what if I did it with just Zoom? And so I wasn't thinking, hey, somebody else needs to solve this problem for me. I was thinking, how can I simplify? What is the best and quickest and easiest way I can do this? And then I Googled that. Then I found how to do that. So, if you're thinking resiliently, you're not saying, this is too much. I don't know how to do this. It's somebody else's fault that I'm out of time. Those are type of things that you're not in emotional adulthood yet, but you can get there. And that's why I always teach about, let's owning, don't expect everybody else to come to your rescue. You come to your own rescue when it comes to things that you need to figure out.
Oh my gosh. That's good. I'm just
And
sitting
it
here
works for
thinking of that
everything.
specific situation too. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted. I was specifically looking for a platform to use for a live event. And I wanted, like, I even reached out to a couple friends. I wanted someone to tell me what to use because I didn't want to have to
Yes.
figure it out myself,
Right.
So, like, even listening to you talk about this, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I
And
know
then it
that comes up
spins
so
in our head and we're wasting time going down all
yes.
kinds of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
so that's the thing, is like, you own your results. Oh, just
Mhm.
own it and say,
Right.
I'm going to get this done. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to figure it out in the easiest way. So like I was trying to do, vmix with restream, and they weren't hooking up, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be an easier way. What is that? I googled that and found the
Yeah.
answer. So,
I love
yeah.
that. I love that. Okay. And early, you also mentioned boundaries, and I know you
Mhm.
like consider resilient boundaries something that's really important too. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Resilient boundaries means, to me, having your own back. So, as I mentioned, boundaries are not for other people. You can't trample on my boundaries. Don't do this. Don't do that. You need to do this. You need to get this report to me in a specific period of time, or that person didn't do that. It's kind of in with emotional adulthood as well. But resilient boundaries are for me. If this happens, I'm going to do this, right? And so you often have to have boundaries with yourself. And so within time management, it means, if I say I'm going to write a blog post in 30 minutes, I write that blog post in 30 minutes, not, oh, I got to do this research and this research. And then I got to check email. And then you go down this rabbit hole and 30 minutes is over and you haven't written a single word. That happens to me frequently. So when you set your, and when I'll talk about the steps too, but when you set that, you're like, nope, if I put it in my time thing that I'm going to, my calendar, that I'm going to actually do this in 30 minutes, I'm going to write it in 30 minutes and be completed.
Mhm.
It's going to be B minus work. That's great. B minus work is perfectly fine. Even if it's C plus work, go for it. That's okay. Let it go, but get it done. And that's having your own back. And that's having your own boundaries around what you're going to do and the time frame, and like having your own back as far as getting things done that you promised with your prefrontal cortex, which
Mhm.
is the most advanced part of your brain. When you plan, I planned it to be this amount. And then your primitive brain at the time is going to say, that's not enough time, or we need to do this instead. You can't let that primitive brain take over. You're like, you know what? I'm going to have I had this boundary. This is what I'm going to do. Now, next time you might plan for an hour, and that's perfectly okay, but you got to get it done in that hour. So,
Mhm.
it's having boundaries for yourself that you create that are going to help you move forward, and they're kind and compassionate. Don't use these to beat yourself up, but resilient boundaries are like, you know what? I'm going to get this done. I promise myself, my future self. I love this, the phrase, my future self will thank you for it, will thank me for it.
Hmm.
And so I always tell myself, okay, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it because it's on my calendar, it's on my schedule. I'm going to do it in that time frame. And that is going to help you go much further ahead than you ever can just saying, oh, I've just got all these things. I just got to get them done and start working.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. There's so much I feel like we could dive into here, but tell me about what those two things, like the resilient time management, the resilient boundaries, I see how they fit together. How do those things look or fit into the context of hosting a summit?
Yes. So when you have summit, like I said, the most beautiful thing is you have given us those tasks. Like, I have the one that I love was the Asana tasks and things like that. So we have them in organized. We know we're going to have to interview people. We're going to have to either edit or give it to somebody else. We're going to have to upload it onto our thing, on our website. So we have all of these things we're going to do. So what you want to do is there's resilient time management process, which it's at realliferesilience.com/time. I will give you all of those steps, but you plan at the very beginning of the week. Okay, I'm going to do a brain dump. All the things I need to do personally, professionally. I need to get the car washed. I need to check on insurance. I need to, have dinner. I need to spend time with my family. All of those things and all your business things, you're going to put it in a brain dump at the beginning of the week. And the first time it might take an hour. After that, like for me, it takes maybe 15 or 20 minutes a week now, this brain dump. And then you're going to order things in as far as most important. When you do that, you're going to take a look at your calendar. You're going to block off your personal time first. You don't ever want to sacrifice family or, like I mentioned, exercises or eating healthy or doing whatever it is. You block off that first because you want to honor that, right? So then you block off focus times. Now, I do 2-hour focus times twice a week. If you're at the beginning of this, you might want to block off a 2-hour focus time every day because things are going to take longer than you expect at first. And then you want to have a little bit of wiggle room. And then you start looking at your list of tasks and you say, okay, I'm going to organize these. Here's the priority. And I'm going to put this here. And you're going to move those things onto your calendar and block out the time you feel it's going to take to get that done, but also a little bit of buffer time. If you need to drive to take your kids to school or drive somewhere or time to, gather all your research material before you write something or whatever it is, you would want to include that buffer time. And then I also have flex time at the end of the day. If you're a newbie at this, have flex time at the end of every day, at least 30 minutes. So in case something goes longer or like you have an emergency, then you can put something there. Now for me, I have an hour flex time every Thursday. I don't need flex time every day like I used to. So if something happens, like, my mom has a heart test, then I can go and take her and then move whatever I have from that, I missed and put it over onto Thursday and know that it's going to get done. Right. So that incorporates the resilient boundaries. I'm only going to do when it comes to those times, my brain is going to say, I don't want to reach out. I don't want to do more research on who, to bring into my summit or whatever. But I'm going to do it because I promised myself in this hour, that's what I'm going to do. And when you do that, you're going to find that you are going to be knocking out those tasks like you never imagined. What it looks like to your brain is like, all these tasks, oh my gosh, I'll never get them done. But when you're very deliberate about it and you start with the priority tasks and you place them on, here's the thing, you're going to end up with a list that not everything is going to get done. But guess what? Not everything is going to get done anyway. let's just make sure that your priority tasks are getting done at the very at minimum. Get your priority tasks done that week. So it's being kind to yourself, being saying, I'm not going to stuff every last hour until midnight, skip everything, skip dinner, eat dinner at my desk, miss my family. You don't have to do that. If you are really efficient with your time, you can absolutely get this done, have another job, have your business, do other things, and still get a virtual summit done. And it's just amazing. And then I block off the summit week for me. I block off a couple of days ahead of time, as well as the summit itself and a couple of days after. So I know that that is the primary for that particular week as well.
Oh my gosh. This is so great. And I'm really, really excited that our hosts are hearing this, because I think this also goes back to what you were talking about with, was it the boundaries? I don't remember exactly now what exactly we were talking about, but where we were talking about where we have these, where we start feeling resistance when it's something new.
Yes.
And when you're hosting a summit, so much is new. It's so easy to be like, I'm just going to pick off these easy tasks in my to-do list. Whenever I sit down
Right.
to work, I'm going to go check my email. I'm going to go check social media. And you never get to the summit tasks because your brain is like prioritizing those easy things. But when you
Mhm.
have these chunks of time in your calendar where you're getting the most important things done that day,
Yeah.
you have to sit down and do it. So
Yeah. And
all of
like I love that phrase that you have your own back, because who else is going to have your back but you? And if you don't have your own back as far as getting these things done and telling your brain, I'm going to do this right now because when, my prefrontal cortex planned it out this way, and it's the most intelligent component of my brain, I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love that. So what would you say is the biggest takeaway you'd like our listeners to get from what we talked about today?
Mm. I think the biggest takeaway is overwhelm is optional. Overwhelm
Hmm.
is optional. You do not have to be in overwhelm. And whether it's a summit or your business in general or projects that you're doing, family, whatever it is, overwhelm is optional. Because when you take the time to plan and be deliberate, and there's some people that say, oh, I'm not a planning type of person. I used to say that until people said, this is so amazing. You have to do it. And I'm like, nah. Or I would try and then fail, and try and not try and fail. This didn't actually stick for me until the third time I tried it over the course of 3 years. And I finally said, you know what? I'm going to make this work. I'm going to find a way to make this work for me. And I absolutely did. And so whenever you think about like, I'm overwhelmed, that also is not emotional adulthood, because overwhelm is optional. You can combat overwhelm with being deliberate and having this resilient time management process. It will become your superpower if you let it.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Oh, this is so helpful, so good. I feel both like encouraged and called out. It's like freeing and called me out at the same time. I
Yeah.
love it. I know I'm
It
not going to
is.
be
It
alone
is
there.
freeing. I love that you
Yeah.
said that, because it's like, it's not, you have to be in lockstep with your calendar and nothing comes, whatever. You really get control over
Mhm.
you free up your free time. When you have your free time, you don't have to worry about all the other stuff on your plate because it's planned, right? So
Yeah.
your free time becomes truly free with this process.
Oh my
Love it.
goodness. Thank you
Overwhelm
so
is
much.
optional.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about where people can go to learn more about you and what you offer? And definitely tell us a little bit more about the freebie you have for us, too.
Yes. Yeah, just go to realliferesilience.com/time. And you're going to get this amazing resource that, I just kind of skimmed the surface of how to do it. It's really the resilience. It's like time management mastery for the last time you ever need it, right? It's the final, like you might have tried other times before. This one is going to stick for you, and it's going to get rid of the overwhelm. It's going to allow you to be able to do far, far more in the time that you have, because everybody has the same amount of time. You get to choose what you want to do in that time, and you can be incredibly deliberate and very efficient with your time. You're going to love what it does for you. And so realliferesilience.com/time. It's a free download of exactly how you need to schedule and what you need to do to make this work for you. Love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll also link to that in the show notes for anyone that's easier for. I just want to jump in and click a link. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. For show notes and resources mentioned, head to summitHostHangout.com/188. In the next episode, we'll be chatting about whether speakers care if you launch a course or any other offer after a summit. So be sure to tune in for that. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your high converting virtual summit.